forget the considerations. This is 27. Chapter 27. All right. So I'll just begin reading because we gotta get it moving here this evening. So, and when it was determined, should we do a review of last week or no? You all good on last week's? Everybody pretty good on last week's? Okay. So, Paul is now having to sail, making his way to Rome. So, and when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus' band, and entered into a ship of Adramyttium. We launched, meaning to sail by the coasts of Asia, one Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. And the next day we touched at Sidon, and Julius courteously entreated Paul, and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh himself. And when we had launched from thence, we sailed under Cyprus, because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us therein. And when we'd sailed slowly many days, and scarce were come over against Cnidus, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete, over against Salmone, and hardly passing it, came unto a place which is called the Fair Havens, nigh whereunto was the city of Lasea, a little bit different than Lycia. Now, when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them, and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and with much damage, not only of the lading and the ship, but also of our lives. And so this is the path that they have taken here. They sailed Salmone there. I don't know if you can see it. I don't have a pointer or anything, but right there, right by Crete, all the way, they went under Crete. They come around, and the Fair Havens there, right there, it says where Paul warns them about the dangers of the voyage. So this, when it says hardly passing it, it just simply means with difficulty. They had much difficulty, as you know, the first of the sailing was pretty decent, and then as they began to continue their journey, it began to get more and more difficult. And the reason was because of the winds that would come through here. I forget which direction they would go, but it would be hurricane force winds that would go through there, and it destroyed many ships. So this ship of Alexandria, what they would do, a lot of times from Alexandria, this Adramyttium, and this ship of Alexandria, they would typically take grain. They would sail grain at pretty much this same route, and take it all the way out to Sicily and so forth. But mainly these ships from Alexandria were pretty much cargo ships. But at this time, there weren't a lot of ships like we think of today, like you can get on a what do you call those, cruise ship, and everybody's on the cruise ship and everybody's going to the same place. That's not necessarily how it worked at this time. So typically your large ships were for commerce. And you would go to the port and you would talk and ask around, and if someone happened to be going to, let's say if you were in Sidon and you wanted to get over to Crete, you would have to ask around, find out if there's a ship going that direction. And then you could pay them some money, or you could ask them for a favor or whatever, and they would either take you, accept you, or not. If they were too full, they couldn't take you, etc. So you go kind of around. It was not really like it is today. So it could be very dangerous to travel that way. So it says there in Myra, it says change to a grain ship sailing to Italy. So it is possible there were Roman ships that made regular treks across there, but of course you had to be Roman citizen. Paul could have gone, but the others could not. So, and there were of course other prisoners and so forth there on the ship as well. But anyway, They switched over to a grain ship, headed over to Cnidus, down to Salmone, underneath Crete because the winds were blowing them, and so they kind of barely made it. And then now they're going to get out here. They're at the Fair Havens, which is at the bottom, and they're about to get out into the big water there. So nevertheless, the centurion, so Paul has now warned them, hey, it's going to be bad. He says, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading and ship, but also of our lives. And he's entreating the guy, the centurion, to wait. And it's strange, like when you traveled back in that day, it's really strange. Like if you come to a place, you would winter in. If it was too cold to travel on the seas, you would do what would be wintering in. You would stay there until spring came. It's like, you know, in our world today, it's all instant everything. You know, we get on a plane and we're on the other side of the United States in just a few hours. Where these people, I mean, sometimes it would take months to get just from one shore to the other shore, like to Crete, for instance. It could take a long time. So be thankful for how we travel today. So nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence, if by any means they might attain to Phoenice, and there to winter, which is an haven of Crete, and lieth toward the southwest and northwest. I wish I could zoom that a little bit bigger. I don't know what just happened. I can't make that any bigger. I have another slide with that zoomed in, and we can kind of see the. No, I think I have Malta zoomed in, but we'll see. All right. So it was not conducive, I guess, to winter in where they were. They may not have had enough resources, places to stay. It wasn't it wasn't a very big place to stay, so it was not good for them to winter in. And when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, loosing thence, they sailed close by Crete. So they're continuing to sail along that southern border of Crete. But not long after, there arose against it a tempestuous wind called Euroclydon. And the Euroclydon is also known as a gregale. It's a northeasterly wind, and it causes violent storms in the Mediterranean, especially near Malta and Crete. So again, northeasterly, northeasterly. I mean, I guess it comes this way. Is that right? Would that be right?
It says it's a
northeasterly. So from the bottom left to the top right. Bottom left. So kind of diagonally, the winds just kind of whip through here and run up through there. And they're called a gregale. So they cause very violent storms. And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive. And letting her drive, I had to research a little bit of some ship sailing stuff, because I wasn't really sure about boats and ships and things like that. Like what's the stern and what's the aft and what's the bow and what's the whatever starboard and all that. I don't know. But what this meant was the ship's crew yielded to the force of the storm and allowed the wind to carry the ship wherever it pleased. So instead of trying to fight it and possibly having the sails ripped or the mast broken because of the strong wind, they simply put everything away and let the wind blow the ship however it was going to be. And rather than trying to even steer it, they wouldn't even try to steer it. Many times they would just take the rudder and tie it up. And so basically the boat is on its own. So that's what happened. So if you're thinking about this, Paul is on this boat. He's told them it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be very bad. We should not go. The centurion decides to believe. The owner of the boat convinces the centurion that, no, it's okay. Everything's good. Come travel. And so the centurion, of course, is in control, makes that decision. And then now they're in this great tempestuous storm. And I'm sure people are getting seasick. So, and running under a certain island, which is called Claudia, we had much work to come by the boat, which when they had taken up, they used helps undergirding the ship. And these were cables or ropes that they used from under the ship to strengthen the ship from the bottom, to prevent it from breaking apart. So, I imagine, you could say they didn't have as modern shipbuilding technology like we do, so you could imagine, the wood and so forth of the boat is creaking, and so they begin to undergird it and so forth to try to keep it from breaking apart. And when we, being exceedingly tossed with a tempest, the next day they lightened the ship. And the third day we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. So the ropes, the blocks, and any other gear used on a ship for tasks like hoisting sails, lifting cargo, or controlling the rudder, everything gets tossed over. They're trying to make sure we're lightening the ship because we don't want to sink. And that's the third day. And when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope that we should be saved was then taken away. I mean, they're to the point where they're realizing it's over. We're all doomed. And this is, of course, Luke writing this, So Luke is like, all hope was gone. Dr. Luke, but after long abstinence, Paul's been fasting. Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, you should have hearkened unto me, and not have loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm and loss. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of God, whose I am, and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar. And lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God, that it shall be even as it was told me. God is a gracious God. These people on this boat, there's 200 and some odd of them, if I remember right. A lot of people on this boat, and many of them innocent people. And God has commissioned Paul and told him he's going to Rome. And it's amazing to me that Paul, even on the boat that he didn't choose to go on, God is going to preserve even the people, the innocent people that got on the boat. So he says, He hath given thee all them that sail with thee. That's what God told him. I've given you everyone that's sailing with you.
And he told them, like, the angel of God, whose I am.
Whose I am.
Right.
Yep. And who I believe, and right. I am his, and I serve him. Yep.
So because of that, everything's fine.
Yep. Yep, even though the tempest in the storm,
right.
The ship is going to be lost. The very thing that's bearing you through the storm may even be lost, like this building, for instance. Right? Things like that. So God is a merciful and wonderful God. So it says,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, going back to about what Paul says, he's an angel of God.
Mm-hmm.
He say, I'm trying to paraphrase now. He said, if you hear anything other than my word, let it be accursed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So he's saying there that my voice is the voice of God.
Yes. Essentially it is. He's relaying to them what God said. So his voice is what God said. That's God speaking. Might as well be.
So don't be afraid.
Yeah, so he's telling them, don't be afraid. Yeah,
It's
it's
like
good.
Brother Brandon with the cancer, people with all the cancers, the diseases, he's like, this is the circumstances, but don't be afraid, God said,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's interesting, verse 25 there. He's like, don't worry, I believe this. It doesn't even
Right.
matter if you do or
Right,
not.
that's good.
Right.
I love
That's
that.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, weren't there times when Brother Branham, somebody said, he said, do you have faith to believe? And they said, yeah. He goes, no, you don't, but I'll have faith for you.
Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Yes. Well, remember, the angel told him, if you can get the people to believe,
Yeah.
and you're sincere, he said, nothing will stand against your prayer, not even cancer.
Right.
That's what the angel told him. So, awesome.
Yeah.
I believe God, whether you do or not. I like it. Said, howbeit we must be cast upon a certain island. So God must have showed him which island they're going to be cast on. And we'll keep reading here. But when the 14th night was come, and we were driven down, up and down in Adria, about midnight, the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country, and sounded, and found it 20 fathoms. And when they had gone a little further, they sounded again, and found it 15 fathoms. So the first time they sound, it's 120 feet deep. They would take a rope, so a little weight on it, they'd put it over to the side till it quits going down. They would pull it up, mark where the water is, and measure it. And it was 120 feet deep. And if they go a little further, now it's 90 feet deep. To me, that's really deep. But this is a pretty big ship. It's a pretty big boat. So they want plenty of depth there. When then fearing, lest we should have fallen upon rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern and wished for the day. And I'll get to that one in a minute. Because a lot of times we read these things and they wish for the day. We have this idea in our mind what wishing for the day means. And as the shipmen were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea under color, as though they would have cast anchors out of the foreship. Let's see if I get to that. Did I not put it in there? I know, I put notes. Where are my notes? All right. Wish for the day means that they were looking for a better day. They were ready for this day to be over. That's wishing for the day. So, and this under color is, like, where are my notes? Something's wrong here. I have a whole section of notes that you're supposed to press on, and they show up. Give me a second. 1 second. Note says. I might just have to do them by memory. Wait, maybe this is it. Yes, present. There we go. Amazing. Okay. So wish for the day means to desire, oops, and they go away. Great job, Apple. Okay. Wish for the day means to desire that the current day would end, often due to unpleasant circumstances, or a desire for a different situation. It implies a longing for the day to be over. Obviously, we get the point, right? The phrase under color means under the pretense or guise of something. So they pretended as if they're going to throw an anchor over the boat, but what they've done is they've lowered, they're going to lower the little dinghy, and the important guys are going to get on the little dinghy and float themselves away from this ship that's doomed. So that's under guise. So under color, that's what that meant. They were being deceptive, and they gave a false appearance to suggest that an action is being taken under the cover of a valid or legitimate reason, even if that reason is not the true or only motivation. So that's what under color means. I don't mean to deep dive too much into these, but I don't know why my notes go away whenever I'll have to be in and out of this, so y'all bear with me here. Okay, we want to show notes. We don't want to hide. We don't want to hide. Okay. That's where it's play. And they go away. I don't know. I don't know technology. I don't know what's happening now. Okay, let's just keep going. Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, "Except these abide in the ship, you cannot be saved." Paul caught the fact that they were trying to sneak off the boat. So Paul is telling them, Paul, obviously God told him something very specific. And now more information is kind of coming out on what this angel told Paul, because, in other words, you've got to stay in the ship. If you want to be saved, you have to stay here. Even though the ship will be lost, you've got to stay in the ship. So then the soldiers cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. And while the day was coming on, Paul besought them all to take meat, saying, "This day is the 14th day that you have tarried and continued fasting, having taken nothing." That's 14 days not eating is a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. So, wherefore I pray you to take some meat, for this is for your health. For there shall not an hair fall from the head of any of you. And when he had thus spoken, he took bread and gave thanks to God in presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. And were they all of good cheer? And they also took some meat. And we were in all in the ship 216 souls. So there were 276 people on this boat. That is a lot of people, especially on a grain boat, a grain ship. So there was a lot of cargo in this thing. This ship was very heavy. When they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and cast out the wheat into the sea. And when it was day, they knew not the land, but they discovered a certain creek with a shore, into the which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust in the ship. So they come to this place, find this creek with a shore, but they're not familiar with this place. Never been here before. And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves unto the sea, and loosed the rudder bands, and hoisted up the mainsail to the wind. All right. So loosing the rudder bands, that means releasing the ropes or fastenings that secure the ship's rudder to the hull. So they now no longer have a rudder. They are completely committed to wherever this boat goes. We now can't even steer it. What's going to happen is going to happen. So it allowed the rudders to be lowered into the water. These were the ropes. So the passage describes the crew abandoning their anchors and preparing the ship to be steered towards the shore after a storm. So hoisting the mainsail. Did I say that wrong about the rudder? Hold on.
Put it back in the water.
Loose the rudder bands and hoist it up. Yeah. Loose the rudder bands refers to the act of releasing the ropes or fastenings that secured the ship's rudder to the hull. This allowed the rudders to be lowered into the water and used for steering. Yeah, my apologies. I read that wrong. So they loosed the rudder bands and hoisted. See, I don't know much about sailing, so.
We can't tell.
Yeah. Hoisted up the mainsail to the wind and made toward shore. The only way they could make toward shore is with a rudder, I assume. So the rudder is still attached, y'all. Hoisting the mainsail to the wind involves raising the mainsail, the largest sail of the ship, while the boat is pointed directly into the wind. This is done by pulling on the main halyard, whatever that is, a rope that runs from the cockpit to the top of the mast and connects to the head. All right. So the boat needs to be headed into the wind to allow the sail to be raised smoothly without catching the wind and to ensure proper tension when it's fully raised. So they're heading into the wind. So I'm thinking of this boat, and we obviously don't know what kind of boat. We have examples and pictures of Alexandrian ships and stuff, but was it one of those triangle-shaped ones where it has where the wind hits it this way and pushes the boat forward because they're going into the wind. So I don't know. I'm wondering. Or is it one of those big flat sail ones? Because if they're going in the wind and the big flat one's out, it's going to push them backwards.
It's a cargo ship, so they probably had a big mast.
It's a
You can't
cargo,
go
yeah, it's a
directly
cargo.
into the wind. It's probably at an angle, but you can go up
It's gotta
like
be at an
75
angle.
degrees into the wind.
Yeah,
Animals haven't had enough room for maybe about 300 people.
yeah, so it's big. Gigantic. So, all right. Where were we? Headed towards the shore. You're right, there's a lot of sailing, sis. And falling into a place where two seas meet, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart struck fast and remained unmovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners. These guys still are going against what Paul has told them. He says, I've given you the lives of everyone on this boat. So, lest any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion, willing to save Paul, kept them from their purpose and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves into the sea and get to land. And the rest, some on boards, some on broken pieces of the ship, and so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to land. I just had a thought go through my mind. That happens occasionally. This centurion, he really likes Paul, if you've noticed. He's been very good to Paul, this Julius. I almost wonder if he's a Christian, a secret Christian.
Could be. He's seen Paul's character.
Yeah, I'm sure he did see Paul's character. And he knows Paul's not one of these ruffians that's going to try to stab him in the back and escape. So, I kind of like this Julius guy.
And this like cements in his mind, I'm sure, that Paul is onto something, with God.
Sure, I'm sure. Because now the man realizes that, hey, we've counted all the heads, everybody's here.
Right.
What Paul said is actually true.
Yeah.
Do I have notes? I'm going to have to...
Did he trust them enough to fast? Didn't they say they fasted with them? Did they all fast or just Paul?
They were all fasting. According to this, did y'all catch that?
Yeah, so did Paul
Or,
tell them to
okay,
fast?
so did all of them fast, or were just the prisoners fasting? I don't know.
Or was it not even like a deliberate act of fasting, but more like, hey, we're fighting a sea storm, or we're fighting a storm for 2 weeks. We don't have time to eat.
And they're
or-
sick.
Yeah.
Or the physical fortitude to keep our food down.
Right, that's
Right.
true. That's
It
true.
could have been. It could have been not. You've been fasting, but hey, we haven't had
Yeah,
Yeah.
time or space to eat.
right.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. Like you haven't been able to eat for 2 weeks.
Right.
Maybe it was that.
Yeah. This is the 14th day that ye have tarried and continued fasting, having taken nothing. Yeah. For this is for your health.
Probably gave all the stuff.
Yeah, let's eat something. This is for your health.
Yeah.
So again, the same. I don't have anything different. I zoomed in a little bit. So now they have. They're here in Malta, where the ship is actually lost. So they're caught in this storm with this northeasterly wind, and for 14 days they've been kind of tossed about and going this direction. So now the ship is lost in the storm. All aboard swim safely to shore, and that's in Malta. There, that's where that
Just to get
little.
bit by a viper.
Yeah, all that island. And this is the island of Malta, like a zoomed in part. And they actually call this St. Paul's Island there where they landed, where the boat was torn apart. So there's this little area there. So now that's where they are on this island that these people were not really familiar with. I imagine usually they would take the route probably directly to Sicily or all the way up even up to the Adriatic Sea, to Pompeii and Tarentum and all those places. They probably just kind of would try to go that direction, especially if you have a northeasterly wind. You could set your sails and it would push you that direction. So they've been blown off course, obviously, but for a reason.
Right.
For a reason. All of that loss and all of that turmoil, for all that stuff, for a reason. So then we come into chapter 28. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita. Oh, this is Melita. Sounds familiar.
Or Malta.
Yeah. Or Malta. Well, is it Malta or it says Melita? Or
called
Malta. So it's probably, the wording in the Bible sometimes we call it Malta, but they say it's Melita. So that's Malta. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness. Barbarous. These are he's calling them barbarians.
Those barbarians were so nice.
Those barbarians, they are so nice to us. If you remember, the Jews would call Gentiles barbarians. So I imagine they were all Gentiles.
Yeah.
So they showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one, 276 people, all of them. And we're going to feed you, we're going to keep you warm, etc., etc. So received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, "No doubt this man is a murderer, whom, though he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live." If you remember, barbarians were typically polytheists. In other words, they had multiple gods. They would worship the sea or this person or whatever, that, and the other. And so for them, karma was a thing.
Right.
This obviously, he's escaped the sea, but vengeance is going to catch up to him anyway. He must be a murderer because he's going to die. He's just got bit by that snake. It says, and he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Why? Because he's got a purpose. He's got to get to Rome. Mm-hmm. God told him. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly, but after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god.
Quite a
There's
change.
a big change of mind there.
Right.
And man, everybody else on this island that gets bit by this snake dies within a few minutes. This guy, man. But he had a protector.
Right.
God was there. So in the same quarters, and what kind of, that's some serious faith. God has told us that there's going to be a resurrection. God has told us that there's going to be a rapture. God has told us and
Right.
told us and told us. And how often do we question in our minds whether we're going to be part of it or not?
Right.
The devil knows you can't stop that. You can't change our minds, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna happen, but you're just not part of
Yeah, right. That's for everybody else, but not you, right?
Right.
I think this is a good example. Paul is taking God at his word,
Yeah.
and nothing's going to stand in his way. Just saying. So in the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius. I think I have notes for that. Excuse me. I do, and they don't show up on here. If y'all ever figure it out, I'll use Keynote. Let me know. So the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and lodged us 3 days courteously. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of a fever and of a bloody flux. And that's a dysentery. It's a bacterial infection. So the chief man of the island, interestingly enough, that the entire island has accepted these people and been so courteous and gracious to them. And the chief man of the island, his dad is sick. It says, to whom Paul entered in and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him. So when this was done, others also which had diseases in the island came and were healed. So all of that turmoil and all of that shipwreck and all of that pain and suffering and not eating for 14 days or whatever, and this island off to themselves somewhere, Paul lands on this island. God lands Paul on this island.
Right.
And everyone comes and everyone that's prayed for is healed.
I'm sure it had an effect how they arrived also.
Yeah.
Because they're not new to sea.
Mm-hmm.
All 276 of them survived.
Yeah, it's like this guy said, he escaped. He's going to die because he got bit, right? Yeah. That's amazing. So when this was done, others also which had diseases on the island came and were healed, who also honored us with many honors, and when we departed, they laded us with such things as were necessary. Anybody, I'm kind of buzzing through this. I know it's almost 8 o'clock, but anybody else want to comment on this? I can tell you who Publius was. I have a note. He held office under the governor of Sicily. As the leading official in Malta, he was responsible for any Roman soldiers and their prisoners who might land there. That's who Publius was. So, apparently the Roman soldiers knew that he was there, I guess. Knew the island was there. I know back there it says they didn't know the land, but maybe because of the storm that they didn't recognize it. And after 3 months, we departed in a ship of Alexandria, another one, you sure you want to get on that one, which had wintered in the isle, whose sign or figurehead was Castor and Pollux. And landing, and I want to talk about Castor and Pollux. Excuse me a second. So, this is interesting to me, and y'all can comment on it. I'll put it back up there in a second. But I got to do this to see the notes. So Castor and Pollux are two semi-deities, two semi-gods, or demigods, or whatever you call them. So they were reputed to be twin brothers, sons of Jupiter and Leda, the wife of whoever he is, king of Sparta. After their death, they were fabled to have been transported to heaven and made constellations under the name of Gemini or the twins. They were supposed to preside over sailors and to be their protectors. Hence, it was not uncommon to place their image on ships. That is just pictures of figureheads. That's what a figurehead is on a boat. So Paul loads up on this boat, this ship of Alexandria, with Castor and Pollux as the figurehead on it, right? Two idolatrous emblems, symbols, right? And you think, my, Paul, are you sure you want to get on that boat? So I kind of asked myself the question, why would Paul even set foot on a vessel that was sailing under such an idolatrous figurehead? And you know what? In 1 Corinthians, I found this scripture. 1 Corinthians 9. And I'll put it up. 1 Corinthians 9, 19 to 23. I'll put it up there. Give me a second. 1 Corinthians 9. Will that go there? I don't know. This thing, I'll have to figure this thing out. Let's go back to mirroring. That might be easier. Might be easier on all of us, actually. Display, arrangement. We're just going to mirror. How about that? So what I say,
1 Corinthians 9.
1 Corinthians 9, 19 to 23. So 1 Corinthians 9. Whoops. Come on now, fingers. 1 Corinthians 9. Okay. All right. So, for though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more, or win. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain or win the Jews. To them that are under the law as under the law, that I might win them that are under the law. To them that are without law as without law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that were without law. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak, or win the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might be by all means save some. Paul has no problem getting in this idolatrous boat, because he is all to all, that he may gain some. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker thereof with you. I was like, how perfect, Paul.
God meet you as you are, where you are.
Right.
So that's why. Because you think, a Jew, first of all, a Jew, I understand that Paul was also a Roman citizen, but he was a Jew. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. And you can be sure that any Pharisee would never get on that boat,
Right.
because it had Pollux and whatever his name is, Castor and Pollux on it, two semigods carved on the front of it.
Right.
The bottom one there, let's get this bigger. The bottom one is a Viking ship. So that's what they would have put something like that on the front of their boats. They were all open hull boats typically. And this one is, I forget the name of that boat. That's a modern ship that has that dude on it, whatever it is. But that's what a figurehead was something carved on the front or the bow of the boat. So I thought that was interesting. Paul's going to get on this boat. It's got it's got idols on it. Paul's like, no problem. Just if I could just win a few,
Right.
I'll go walk on this boat. I'm going to go sail on it. No problem. God's already told me I'm going to Rome, so it doesn't matter what happens on this boat. So, and landing at Syracuse, we tarried there 3 days. And from thence we fetched a compass and came to Rhegium. And after 1 day, the south wind blew, and we came the next day to Puteoli, where we found brethren, and were desired to tarry with them 7 days. And so we went toward Rome. And from thence, when the brethren heard of us, they came to meet us as far as Apiphorum and the 3 taverns, whom when Paul saw, he thanked God and took courage. I don't remember if I have the notes on that. And again, here we are now. Make it big. Sorry, this thing is just goofing up on me. So he meets. They've made their way all the way up to Puteoli, and now they're kind of walking, I guess, or traveling there, heading towards Rome. And there's the 3 taverns, or 3 taverns. Taverns, I think it's taverns.
Or inns.
Yeah, they're inns. It's a tavern. Yeah, taverns. So they're taverns. So that's misspelled, I guess. So these were places that these were like little villages, kind of. And there were individuals, there were believers in Italy there, and they traveled, some of them traveled a pretty good distance when they heard that Paul was there to meet Paul. So, all right. Okay, when Paul saw, he thanked God and took courage. All right, verse 16. And when we came to Rome, the centurion delivered the prisoners to the captain of the guard. But Paul was suffered to dwell by himself with a soldier that kept him. It came to pass that after 3 days Paul called the chief of the Jews together, and when they were come together, he said unto them, Men and brethren, though I have committed nothing against the people or customs of our fathers, yet was I delivered prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romans, who, when they had examined me, would have let me go, because there was no cause of death in me. But when the Jews spake against it, I was constrained to appeal unto Caesar, not that I ought to accuse my nation of. For this cause, therefore, have I called for you to see you, and to speak with you, because that for the hope of Israel I am bound with this chain. So they have entered Rome. They are at Rome. There are representatives, Jewish representatives there. And Paul has, of course, called them together for a little council. And he's wanting to kind of explain his case to them. Paul would have walked this path right here. Still exists today. He would have walked down, it's called the Appia Way, through the arches that lead to the area we now refer to as the Roman Forum. He would have seen the Pantheon. It was there in all of its, newness.
It's amazing.
He would have seen the Roman Forum. A lot of the buildings are still there. There's the arches there on the right. He would have seen the Colosseum when it was complete, obviously. Look how big that Colosseum is. I don't know if you can see it from where you're sitting there, but the cars down there and the buses are just tiny little things. That is a massive structure. Paul would have seen that. If I remember right, weren't there Christians in there, eaten by lions in there and so forth?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before all of that was happening, Paul would have seen it. Now those roads wouldn't have been there, obviously, but
Yeah,
know-
actually,
They weren't?
they actually flooded it. They had
What's that?
battles in there with ships.
What's that?
They actually flooded it, and they had battles in there with ships and all kinds of things.
Isn't that amazing? Like,
It was
how do you
huge.
do that? Yeah.
It's right across from the Vatican. We were there, we were able to see the Colosseum, the ruins anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's massive, huh?
It's bigger than the IX Center.
Wow. That what a feat of construction, But I thought it was neat that Paul would have seen these things when he was there.
Yeah.
Perhaps he'd seen the Colosseum there off in the distance when he came in the forum there and so forth. I just thought, man, interesting to me. So, and they said unto him, we neither received letters out of Judea concerning thee, neither any of the brethren that came showed or spake any harm of thee. So nobody's saying anything, Paul. That's the first we heard. You're the one telling us. But we desire to hear of thee what thou thinkest. For as concerning this sect, we know that everywhere it is spoken against. What sect? Christianity. Christianity is spoken of in the Jewish community, spoken against everywhere. Why? Because it threatens them. So when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him unto his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of God, persuading them concerning Jesus, both out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning till evening. So he could appeal to, the Sadducees wouldn't have been there. The Sadducees' purpose was the temple. The Pharisees would have been there.
They probably wouldn't even have set a toe in Rome.
Probably not. I mean, their purpose was the temple, so they had to kind of stay where the temple was. Maybe they had traveled some to try to appeal to, I don't know, who knows. Maybe there were some Sadducees there. But Paul is able to persuade them concerning Jesus out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets, because the Pharisees would have believed all the minor prophets and the other prophets besides Moses. So, from morning till evening.
It's interesting to me, verse 17, it's like they get there, they get settled in, and after 3 days, he calls them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're so far away, and, they say in the next verse, like, we haven't heard anything about you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually pretty impressive. I mean, it's been years since his ministry began
Mm-hmm.
that, like, they've heard of Christianity, but not of Paul.
Right?
So
Interesting.
I just think it's interesting that, like, because he had that it's been years now, I think, in the chronology, but he had that episode where he was like, I shake the dust of the Jews off my feet. I'm not messing with y'all anymore.
Yep.
But maybe somewhere along this whole road, God said, hey, I've got one more group. I got one more synagogue for you to go to, because he's proactively saying, hey guys, come here, let's talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like they were coming at him with pitchforks and he's like, okay, time for the stump speech.
Mm-hmm. Right. And he's explaining his case. I mean, he comes in bonds. He's bound, and And he comes and tells these people, hey, we need to meet, but he's bound in front of them. So, for the hope of Israel, I'm bound with this chain, he says. Where are we at? Okay, so they appoint. Okay, so he has persuaded them concerning Jesus, both out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets. And some believe the things which were spoken, and some believe not. You're going to have that everywhere. When they agreed not among themselves, they departed. After that, Paul had spoken one word. Well spake the Holy Ghost by Isaiah, the prophet, unto our fathers. And you, I love how he worded that. He said, well spake the Holy Ghost
That's right.
by Isaiah, the prophet, unto our fathers. Well spake God, the Holy Ghost, to them. He says, saying, go unto this people and say, hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and not perceive. For the heart of this people is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes have they closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. Be it known, therefore, unto you, that the salvation of God is sent unto the Gentiles, and that they will hear it. And when he had said these words, the Jews departed, and had great reasoning among themselves. I mean, he has stirred them up. And Paul dwelt 2 whole years in his own hired house, which was a rented house. And by the way, he was under house arrest, because they assigned a soldier to watch him. The rest of them got sent to the captain of the guard and got put in jail. But yet, Paul was not put in jail. Paul was allowed to have a rented house. Maybe even the Romans paid for it. I don't know. But it was a rented house. It said, and received all that came in unto him.
How many of the 276 were there? Did they all stay back?
I don't know. And they weren't all prisoners necessarily, right? So a lot of them were just travelers, probably.
But they didn't speak of him.
And
Because they
soldiers.
saw the healings.
Mm-hmm.
They were there.
Yeah.
They still didn't say anything.
Yeah. So 2 whole years he dwells there, preaching the kingdom of God and teaching those things which concern the Lord Jesus Christ, and with all confidence, no man forbidding him.
Because he had purpose.
The book of Acts.
It's very different from where it was back in this room.
Hmm?
Everyone was telling them to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go,
sure
yeah.
he accomplished more being bound because they didn't count him as a threat than he did if he wasn't bound.
Mm-hmm.
Also gave him a measure of physical safety.
Right? Yeah.
But was anybody else waiting for this big confrontation with Caesar?
Right?
Felt a little anticlimactic.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just always thought it was in there, and then we get to the end, and I was like, but I gotta talk to Caesar. I gotta talk
Yeah.
to Caesar. You're gonna stand before Caesar.
Thanks a lot, Luke.
I think I think the footnotes of my Bible, that with me, it said like something about Luke being as accurate as he is. He would if he had met with if Paul had met with Caesar or done anything of significance after that, he would have written it. And so it's led to believe that it was probably shortly after that he was persecuted. Shortly after where this leaves off, he was probably persecuted. That because Luke, as a being the perfectionist, he would have done everything he can to write everything that Paul would have done.
Yeah, because he wrote the letters that were written, right? Back earlier. He was even writing the letters that were written between the soldiers and the leaders back there. How would he have known those letters? Well, they might have been read in the courtroom, back when Paul was being brought through the courts there. But, yeah, I mean, so as far as this timeline, I don't know. What happened after this?
It definitely noted the tonal shift in these last 2 chapters, like the change to a first person plural, where Luke was part of this story, because it's we.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also kind of see, and I did a little bit of spot checking, but it was something I noticed when I was reading it this morning. That also is supported by like how massively detailed it is compared to him recounting other people's stories. He's like, if I was there, I'm going to give you all the details. I actually got a chuckle. Like maybe I shouldn't, but I got a chuckle of the verse where they're like, and then we went to fetch a compass.
Yeah, fetch a compass.
It's like, we got this far, maybe we need a compass.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a very serious, like, you know, story, but it just reads funny off the page, like, and then we went to fetch a compass.
Yes. Maybe we should check to see where we are.
It must have been good of a shorthand, because there's a lot of details that you couldn't just memorize.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he didn't record it with his cell phone, so.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Must
Well,
have-
and then it could have been just too, like, hey, I have details at my disposal because I'm a primary source, so people can check this against, you know, ship ladings and,
Right.
you know, they can know that this journey really happened and they can go here and they can go to this specific place and talk to Publius and, you know, or his descendants and get
Right.
corroboration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought it was neat that the centurion allowed him to have his own house. You have to remember too, he was a Roman citizen, so maybe that was something that was a perk of being a Roman citizen. You've said, I need to appeal to Caesar. Perhaps this was a perk to that.
And he saw a lot.
Perhaps he got a monthly stipend for it or something. I don't know.
Was that the same centurion who paid for his citizenship?
Well, it's the same name. It's a good question. Let's see, when was that?
It was a while back.
It'd be kind of interesting if it was the same centurion. I mean, Paul travels all over and happens to see the same centurion everywhere.
Yeah, Lysias, Claudius Lysias.
Didn't say the centurion, it just says centurion.
Yeah, you have chief captain. So would that have been 21, 22? I'm not sure. Might take me too long to find it.
22,
So chapter 22.
28, 22 verse 28.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, chief captain. So this would have been, this just says the centurion. Yeah, the chief captain. So the chief captain would have been Lysias, Claudius Lysias. So the chief captain. That chief captain was. So this person here, this is the same chief captain. And this person was Claudius Lysias. So correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think that's right.
So it seems like it was the same one? Is that what you're saying?
No, different one.
Different one, okay.
So you had the chief captain. Remember, the chief captain is the one that sent the guards, the 200 and some, or the 400 and some odd soldiers, the archers and the horsemen, to take him that path up here, through that treacherous area through Judea there, from what is that? From Jerusalem to Antipatris, and then I can't remember if the horsemen or the archers are the ones that left and went back, and the remaining ones took him all the way up to Caesarea. But that was Lysias. So I think this is a different guy. Let's go, yeah, if we want to dig into that. Let's make sure.
It could explain why he told his soldiers not to kill the prisoners if they tried to escape.
Could be, yeah. But this one is named Julius or Julius. He was a centurion of Augustus's band. Did I have notes for that? Well, no, I don't have notes in that one. That's before I started using notes. Yeah. But this Julius is the one that courteously entreated Paul, gave him liberty to go to his friends to refresh himself. So in chapter 27, the beginning of chapter 27. Yeah, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius. So Julius is in a different place. Different Julius. Or different centurion. So. Anybody else? Anything else? Sorry it's so late today. We got kind of started a little late with the technology thing. Anybody else have any words of wisdom?
I'm sure they had to become comforted because of the fact that how treacherous the seas were, you know, and they had to bind the ship. I'm pretty sure they all thought they were going to die.
Yeah.
I would have.
Yeah, we wished for the day. We
Yeah.
wanted it to end really quick.
But God not only comforted Paul, comforted them also.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to a point where they were they threw out everything, including the wheat. You know, the very reason the ship was sailing was it was a grain ship, and they even threw out the wheat. So they were sure. It says all hope that we should be saved was then taken away. That it's over. Neither sun nor stars in many days appeared. Yeah. Whew. What a journey. But just like God said, Paul made it safely to Rome.
It's been nice going through Acts and seeing
Yeah.
it like real, you know, like all the layers.
It still doesn't give out the details.
No, there's
Right.
still, like, I feel like there's so much left, but it's been really nice to go through it.
Mm-hmm. I like all the types and stuff in there. The fact that Paul would have possibly walked that road there, the Apia Way.
It's amazing.
I mean, he was there for 2 years. He was technically under house arrest in a hired house. But I would assume as long as he's perhaps bound or with his guardians, the soldier there that's supposed to keep him, he probably had some freedom to walk around.
And he probably got off easy.
Yeah.
Until his head came off. Until
Yep. Till then.
Till then.
Well, Go ahead, no, you go.
Just trying to remember if anything happened during the imprisonment.
I didn't hear it.
What'd you say, Hannah? Didn't the book of Philemon happen during his imprisonment? Yep.
I was just gonna say, looking at like that road, I like how God brings world events around to serve His needs. Like, you know, we talk about the printing press coming out right when He brought Luther on the scene, and Rome had so many innovations as an empire, and its infrastructure was one of them. And so all those roadways and tradeways that like let the gospel be spread as quickly as it was in one man's lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, right.
you know, now in our day and age with the prophet coming on the scene, I see the hand of God in the formation of this country, because we should not have won that war.
Right.
Exactly.
You think about the Battle of Trenton, when Washington crossed the Delaware, there were 0 U.S. casualties, either deaths or injuries in that battle.
Right.
And I don't know. I love thinking about those little things when it seems to defy odds. It is miraculous because it is supernatural, and you can see God's finger going, now I'm shaping.
Right.
I'm shaping. This should not have happened, but I'm
Yeah.
shaping it.
Right.
That's amazing.
I
And don't forget that Washington even had 4 bullets shot through his coat.
Yes, that's right, he did.
Just look at things backwards, because I look at them saying, okay, they didn't have what we have today, so how could they, go on what they barely had and die for that? Because we feel like we have more today, but we have the same, not comparative, but that stuff had to happen back then, because today it wouldn't have been believable. If their ship broke down, what do you just call AAA? They would
Right.
have had the same effect today. Just like, Brother Graham's ministry had been before, CDs and all that, because they couldn't fake the tapes they were caught, trying to tie the tapes together.
Yeah,
Make
cutting and
some sense
splicing.
that it didn't say.
Right.
But that stuff had to happen then when, I don't know, it's just amazing God's plan, how he had everything happen. Because now it wouldn't been as believable.
Yeah, there's so much fake today. Like you can easily fake a prayer line.
Right.
We have earbuds that you can't see in your ear, wireless. There was no such thing as wireless earbuds. He would have had to have this cable coming out of his
Right.
ear
Right.
to hear somebody tell him what somebody had told him before they got in the prayer line or whatever, right?
Even today, we have earbuds that are disguised as earrings.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, they transmit to your bones in your head, and you can hear it without hearing it out loud. So, but the thing is, like the technology was, the tape machine had to be built and invented
Right.
so that the voice could be documented and recorded.
Isn't that amazing?
And then, of course, technology could then advance to a place where it's all digital now, right? So it is amazing to look at how all of those things, you could say, well, it's just man inventing it, it's just man, whatever, man. No, I think God has influenced people. God gave man his intelligence, and God has had his hand in all of this, just as he had his hand in Acts.
Right.
Making sure that this was recorded by Luke, these events that Paul went through, and that the apostles went through, they were all recorded. It's all God's divine plan.
Yeah.
Why? Like Brother Branham said at one time, he said, "Why accept a counterfeit when the sky is full of the real?" So it is incredible. It's amazing. Looking through all this stuff that happened and being able to look at it and look back at how God directed it, curated it, all of those words to bring it to pass.
And maintained it.
Yeah, maintained
All
it.
stayed together.
Maintained its, what should I say, integrity?
Authenticity.
Yeah, authenticity. Maintained that. I forget who found the scrolls. Was a farmer boy or a shepherd or somebody digging or something in a field somewhere, and it fell through, and there was a cave, and they go in there and they found these scrolls, the biblical books, and they had to have a special thing to, I guess, I might be getting two events mixed up in my mind, but they had to translate them, so they found them. They were, some of them were written in Hebrew, but some of these books in the Bible, they've been found in very obscure places. So God has his way of bringing everything together.
And then some of the books of the Bible were written as literal letters.
Yeah, like letters. Yep. He wrote a letter to somebody and they recorded it.
They had no hope that it would be preserved to this day. Probably.
Yeah, if you write a letter to someone, you put it in the mail. Do you expect it to last for 2,000 years? No.
I like to think of the monks in the Middle Ages. That was their whole life. They would live in the monastery and make sure that the scriptures were copied exactly over and over and over for the preservation. And that was God's will for their life. I mean, I'm sure that there were just people who were there for a meal ticket, but there was bride in that group too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there was some little man somewhere who was like, oh, what a blessed life I have. And I'm making sure that the word of God is preserved.
Right? Yeah.
Look at, what's her name, with David's girlfriend, I forget her name. But she taught him to read, the scrolls. And that's what their whole family did, scrolls and translate them.
Hmm.
David, King David, before he was King David, what's her name that taught him to read the scrolls? I forget
I don't know. I don't remember.
that girl. Yeah.
But neat. Anybody else?
Going back to the
Yes.
whole, it could be fake these days. The photo of the pillar of fire was taken when a very complex process of photo editing could have been done.
Mm-hmm.
But so the photo itself was taken to be tested, and no irregularity was found.
Right.
That's right.
They couldn't fake it. I forget the guy said the light struck the lens or something. The light struck the negative or something like that. Yeah, he said there's no way to fake it. This is authentic. Yeah, to whoever the FBI guy was,
Right.
whatever his name was, I forget.
You know, speaking of writing things down, Brother Branham, he saw a vision about the child in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
the boy that was gonna be raised. And when he was telling that vision, he says, now you write this down in your Bible.
Yeah.
You write
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah.
And he said it over and over several times. Now you write it in the leaf of your Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a year later, they come across that boy while he's in Sweden. And then he says, well, look in your Bible. Is this what was written down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was a prophecy that was written. It was no different than any other prophecy. It could
Yeah.
have been
That's right.
thousands of years ago. This one was written 60 years ago, whatever it was, 50
Right.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Bible.
That's right.
So it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
the same scenario.
Right. Came to pass. So in today's world, the try to get Paul to go from the United States over to Sweden or wherever it was. How long would that have taken, right? Whereas Brother Branham, in one lifetime around the world, that ministry went around the world 7 times in one lifetime.
I
So
don't think he went by boat.
no, I think he went by airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see how much farther it can.
Right.
Everything was moving to the place where God would send Malachi 4, 5, and 6, and Revelations 10, 7, and those scriptures would be fulfilled, and that ministry could spread so quickly
Right.
in just a single lifetime. Yeah, just amazing.
I think he went to India, right?
Hmm. Yeah, India. The only place I don't think he went was China
Right.
No, he didn't go.
That actually
Go to
makes
China.
sense.
Or Israel.
or Israel. That's right. He tried to go to Israel.
I don't think he went to
Where?
Japan either.
I don't think he went to Japan.
To Japan.
He didn't go to Japan, I
Hmm.
don't think.
There's just a few places like they wouldn't let him in. So what can you do?
And I think God said that he wasn't supposed to go to Israel or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah. You wanted to.
Yep.
And then wasn't time.
Because Moses and Elijah are supposed to go to Israel. And that spirit of Elijah could not go by himself. Has to be with Moses. Well, sorry y'all, it's 8:30. I know it's late. Brother Lynn, you want to lead us out in prayer, and we'll.
Our gracious Lord, again, we're so thankful, Lord, to look at some of these things, Lord, from a historical aspect, Lord. But most of all, we see your hand and mercy, Lord, leading and guiding in a very precious way, Lord. For your purpose, Lord, and your plan to come to fruition, Lord. So, Lord, we ask that you again lead us and have mercy upon us, Lord, each one, Lord. Grant traveling mercies, we pray, and those in our way, Lord, in need of touch, Lord, a physical touch, Lord, pray that you be with them. So we thank you for this little time, Lord, and we give you all the praise and glory and honor for it. In the name of Lord Jesus, we ask these things. Amen.
I want to try this microphone before we turn it off and see if this thing's actually working. This is the one that was giving us trouble.
system still on? System's on? Is this one muted, the normal one?
Testing, 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 testing. You can't hear it, can you? Testing, testing,